Buckle up because tonight we're tearing into one of the most shocking celebrity implosions of the year. T.I. and Tiny, hip-hop royalty for decades, are now caught in a storm of betrayal, guns, jail time, and divorce papers so explosive they nearly broke the internet. It all started with one reckless night that pulled every hidden crack in their marriage straight into the spotlight. But that night was only the beginning. It was a warm October night in Atlanta, the kind of night when the city never truly sleeps. Neon lights pulsed on wet pavement as King Harris slid behind the wheel of his black BMW coupe. Music thundered from the speakers, bass rattling the car doors. Witnesses say he launched out of a gas station like a rocket, tires screaming, exhaust popping, engine howling through the humid air. In a split second, he was barreling toward a busy intersection, but destiny was waiting at the next corner. From the opposite lane, a police cruiser idled at a red light, its dash cam rolling. Officers looked up just as King's BMW fishtailed dangerously close, so close they claimed they felt the wind from his passing. Brakes slammed, sirens lit up the night sky, and blue strobes bathed the asphalt in a chaotic flash. To onlookers, it looked like the opening scene of an action movie. And that was only the first jolt of adrenaline. The BMW screeched to a halt under a highway overpass, tires hissing. Two officers approached, hands near their holsters. The smell hit before the words did. A heavy, unmistakable cloud of marijuana rolling out of the open window. One officer's flashlight swept across the driver's seat and caught a glint of cold metal tucked into King's waistband. A loaded semi-automatic handgun. The discovery turned a routine traffic stop into a powder keg. Tension spiked as officers ordered King to step out. Body cams recorded every heartbeat of the moment. The quiet click of a safety being checked, the metallic scrape as the gun was set on the trunk. Onlookers whispered, phones raised high. King kept his expression stone cold, but the silence between commands felt electric. And the next revelation was about to make everything far worse. When dispatch ran King's name through the system, the screen lit up red. There it was, an outstanding 2022 warrant for speeding, driving on a suspended license, and a DUI. What could have been a minor stop now looked like a 3-count headline waiting to explode. The officer's voice crackled over the radio. "We've got a warrant confirmed." That single sentence changed the Harris family's future in an instant. By now, blue lights had drawn a small crowd of late-night drivers and curious onlookers. Social media live streams were already buzzing, comments flooding in as people realized whose son had just been cuffed on camera. The moment felt unreal. Atlanta nightlife colliding with hip-hop royalty in the harsh glow of police LEDs. And with the cameras rolling, the story wasn't staying on that street corner for long. Within minutes, King was placed in the back of the squad car, his face lit by alternating flashes of blue and white. The quiet of the car was deafening compared to the chaos outside. For King, those few miles to the station may have been the longest ride of his life. But the longest ride was nothing compared to what waited online. By sunrise, the footage was everywhere. Twitter threads, Instagram reels, TikTok duets. Body cam angles captured every second of King's arrest. The flashing lights, the cool nod as he handed over his ID, the metallic clink as officers set his gun on the trunk. Viewers couldn't look away, but the calm on screen only made the chaos louder. Comments poured in at lightning speed. Some mocked him as a trust fund prison punk, a rich kid cosplaying a gangster. Others dragged at T.I. and Tiny, saying the family's reality show lifestyle had bred a headline, not a man. Memes of King's blank stare flooded feeds within hours. And what began as ridicule quickly morphed into a full-blown family trial by internet. Influencer live streams dissected every frame, turning the footage into a pop culture courtroom. Every pause in King's voice became proof of hidden guilt. Every steady breath a spark for new conspiracy theories. But the online jury wasn't the only one taking notes. Inside the Harris household, phones lit up with relentless notifications. Relatives, friends, and industry insiders all watched the same viral loop, each replay a new crack in the family's already fragile foundation. And those cracks were about to split wide open in the next chapter. While the internet turned King's arrest video into an overnight spectacle, the Harris mansion was silent except for the relentless buzz of Tiny's phone. Each new notification felt like another blow. Friends texted screenshots, family called in panic. Tiny scrolled through thousands of comments blaming her for King's downward spiral. Every headline screamed the same thing: T.I. and Tiny's parenting failure exposed. But the noise outside was nothing compared to the storm building inside. For years, Tiny had swallowed rumors of T.Y.'s late-night disappearances and whispered infidelities. She had defended him through arrests and headlines, believing their decades together and children shared would outlast the chaos. But watching King's mugshot go viral flipped a switch. To her, this wasn't just King's mistake, it was the proof that every warning sign she'd ignored had finally come to collect. And with each replay of that footage, her patience crumbled like glass. By mid-morning, Tiny's mind was made up. She gathered paperwork she had quietly kept for months, documents outlining financial assets, records of past betrayals, and the legal drafts of a separation she once prayed she'd never need. Friends say she moved with an icy calm, her silence louder than any fight. But the calm masked a decision that would shock the hip-hop world. That afternoon, without waiting for T.I. to return home, Tiny drove straight to her attorney's office. She laid the stack of papers on the polished oak desk and spoke the words she'd rehearsed in her head 100 times. File them. Today, the gavel in her heart had already come down. And when those papers hit the courthouse system, the countdown to a public explosion began. Inside the filing, Tiny listed King's reckless spiral and T.I.'s failure to provide consistent, present fatherhood as key reasons for the split. She didn't stop there. She included long-suspected infidelities and a history of volatile arguments. To her, this wasn't revenge, it was survival. But the most shocking part was still ahead. Instead of racing to stop her, T.I. stayed silent. No calls, no texts, no rush to the lawyer's office. To Tiny, that silence wasn't peace, it was abandonment, the loudest confirmation that she'd been right all along. And that cold quiet would ignite the next round of drama. Because by the time T.I. finally walked through the front door and saw the empty space where Tiny's wedding ring used to rest, the world already knew. Gossip blogs were posting push notifications. Fans were tagging both of them non-stop. The divorce wasn't just paperwork, it was now headline-breaking entertainment. And with the stage set, T.I.'s response would either mend or detonate everything. By the time T.I. finally pulled into the driveway, the house didn't feel like home. It felt like a crime scene of memories. The air inside was heavy, almost electric, as if the walls themselves knew something irreversible had happened. He found no note on the counter, no warm greeting, just the echo of his own footsteps and the absence of Tiny's wedding ring on its usual stand. But the silence inside was only the first chill. Phone in hand, T.I. scrolled through dozens of alerts. TMZ headlines, Instagram tags, group texts from industry friends, all pointing to the same breaking story. Tiny Harris files for divorce. Instead of panic, he exhaled like a man who'd seen this storm coming for years. And that calm would shock everyone waiting for a meltdown. Rather than dialing Tiny or calling his lawyers in a frenzy, T.I. went live on Instagram. His tone wasn't angry or tearful, it was ice cold. He told millions of followers he had made peace with King's path and warned long ago that if his son kept it up, prison was inevitable. "Ain't nothing I can do about it," he said, voice steady as stone. But those words landed like a hammer on Tiny's heart. Fans flooded the live chat with disbelief. Some cheered his tough love, saying, "Finally a parent who doesn't enable." Others accused him of washing his hands of his own child. Screenshots of his quotes spread like wildfire, each repost sharpening the image of a father drawing a hard line in public. And that public stance turned a private divorce into front-page spectacle. Behind closed doors, relatives begged him to reach out, to at least call Tiny. Sources say he simply shook his head. To him, King was grown, and choices have consequences. "I know that energy," he reportedly told a friend. I was that energy. To T.I., this wasn't cruelty, it was prophecy. But prophecy felt a lot like abandonment to everyone else. Tiny, reading those words on her phone miles away, felt each sentence like a cut. To her, this was proof that the man she'd defended through arrests and scandals would rather lecture the world than fight for his family. And the rift between them deepened with every refresh of the feed. Industry insiders expected at least a statement of reconciliation, a grand romantic gesture, something to stop the bleeding. Instead, T.I. doubled down in interviews, repeating that no one, not Tiny, not him, not the grandmother, could change King's trajectory but King himself. And that relentless stance turned a marriage crisis into a cultural debate. Barbershops, podcasts, and morning talk shows argued whether T.I. was a hero of tough love or a father in freefall. But inside the Harris household, one fact was already settled. Tiny had heard all she needed to hear. And the next chapter of this family saga was about to shift from cold words to fiery history. Long before King ever floored that BMW, there were hairline fractures running through the T.I. and Tiny's relationship. Cracks too thin for cameras to catch, but deep enough to split an empire. Friends whispered about late-night studio sessions that bled into sunrise and mysterious trips that never matched the calendar. Tiny kept smiling for red carpets and reality TV shoots, telling herself loyalty would outlast temptation. But every secret moment was quietly stacking like dynamite. There were the rumors of clandestine parties, the blurry paparazzi photos of T.I. leaving clubs when he was supposed to be on tour, and the whispered names of women no one dared say too loudly. Each story Tiny waved off in public found a permanent place in the private archive of her memory. And every unspoken doubt became another crack in their foundation. Even when the cameras stopped rolling on their hit reality show, the performance never really ended. Their mansion looked like success, gated drive, glittering pool, but insiders say the air inside was more like a movie set. Perfect lighting outside, cold drafts in the dark corners. Tiny clung to the hope that children, family dinners, and shared music projects could seal those fractures. But cracks in a house this big don't stay hidden forever. When King began acting out, first with the infamous Waffle House meltdown, then with late-night joyrides, Tiny saw echoes of the man she once fell for, and the chaos that came with him. She started connecting dots. T.I.'s old arrests, his reputation as a rap rebel, his love of danger. And each memory felt like a warning flare she'd ignored for years. By the time King's mugshot made headlines, those silent suspicions had hardened into certainty. Tiny wasn't just dealing with a rebellious teenager. She was reliving the same cycle she had forgiven in T.Y. The adrenaline, the defiance, the public humiliation. And that realization hit harder than any tabloid headline. To friends close to the couple, it suddenly made sense why Tiny moved with such icy precision when she filed for divorce. This wasn't a sudden reaction to one arrest. It was the final domino in a line that had been wobbling for a decade. And the next domino would fall where everyone could see it. Because just as Tiny decided she was done quietly absorbing the chaos, fate handed her a very public stage for the next eruption. A stadium packed with cameras, microphones, and thousands of unsuspecting fans. And that's where the Harris family drama would literally go live. It was supposed to be a chill Sunday of football and family pride. Mercedes-Benz Stadium pulsed with the roar of the crowd as the Atlanta Falcons took the field. VIP boxes sparkled with celebrities, but all eyes would soon turn to one suite where T.I. and King were seated side by side. Cameras occasionally panned past them, catching what looked like an ordinary father-son outing. But the tension brewing in that luxury box was anything but ordinary. Between plays, King leaned back, laughing with friends, and casually told someone nearby that he never ate with a silver spoon. The words were sharp enough to slice through the roar of the stadium, and sharp enough to set T.I. on edge instantly. And the next seconds would turn a quiet boast into a public showdown. T.I.'s head snapped around. Witnesses say his eyes locked on King with a look that mixed disbelief and pure fury. He fired back loud enough for the suite to hear, reminding King that he was literally raised in comfort, that reality show cameras once filmed his childhood dinners, that his life was anything but struggle. But the verbal sparring didn't stay verbal for long. Phones came out as voices rose. King stood, chest out, insisting he ain't never had a silver spoon. T.I. stepped forward, jaw tight. The two were suddenly toe-to-toe, the sound of the game fading under the sharp crack of their argument. And then the moment every onlooker will never forget. A shove, quick, hot, and caught on dozens of iPhones, sent the argument into full contact. Security hesitated, unsure whether to intervene between rap royalty and his son. Gasps rippled through the suite as the father and son squared off, each daring the other to back down. And outside that suite, the world was already watching. Within minutes, short clips were uploaded to Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Captions like T.I. versus King live at Falcons game and Father versus Son SmackDown trended before halftime. Fans and bloggers replayed every shove and shout, turning a family feud into viral spectacle. But the fallout didn't end when the game clock hit 0. Back home, the fight replayed in every corner of the Harris household. Some relatives quietly praised T.Y. for finally checking King. Others were horrified that a father would square up with his son in front of thousands. Tiny, watching the clips over and over, felt her heart sink. And that sinking feeling would harden into anger when she learned what came next. Because T.Y., still simmering, made a decision that night that would deepen the rift beyond repair. He told King to pack his things and leave the house until he could figure out what being a man really means. And that decision set the stage for the next explosive chapter of this family saga. Weeks after the stadium clash, King tried to bury the headlines by diving into music. A rented warehouse on the city's edge became his late-night playground. Fog machines pumping, cameras rolling, speakers shaking the concrete walls. Friends say he arrived in a storm of designer jackets and brash confidence, determined to shoot a music video that would silence every critic. But the night was about to spiral far beyond music. As the beat dropped and cameras captured each verse, King reached for the kind of prop that isn't supposed to be on any video set: a real handgun. With the lens zoomed in, he waved the weapon like it was part of the choreography, the metal flashing under strobe lights. Cheers from his crew drowned out the quiet warnings of the cameraman. And that single motion pulled the danger off the screen and into real life. Phones filmed from every corner, live streams buzzed, and before long, snippets leaked online. What was meant to look hard instantly looked reckless. Commenters called out the obvious risk. Possession of a firearm in the commission of a crime is a felony waiting to happen. But the biggest shock was still on the way. Without warning, a heavy door slammed open. T.I. himself stepped into the haze of smoke and neon, his face a mask of disbelief and fury. The music cut mid-beat. Crew members froze as the rap legend and furious father stormed toward his son. And the confrontation that followed could have been a scene from a crime drama. "Why you playing with your life like this?" Witnesses heard him bark, voice echoing off the walls. He pointed out every danger. One wrong move, one police call, one accident, and everyone in the room could face charges. The tension was thick enough to taste, but King barely flinched, staring back with the defiance of someone determined to prove he couldn't be tamed. The standoff stretched on for long seconds, seconds that felt like hours. Phones kept recording, capturing a father-son clash so raw it seemed scripted for prime time. Tiny, when she saw the footage later, wasn't impressed by T.I.'s late burst of discipline. She saw a performance, a lecture arriving years too late, and that disappointment would ignite an even deeper fury at home. By the time the clip hit social media, hashtags like #TrapHouseShowdown and #T.I. versus King trended overnight. Fans debated whether this was tough love or public humiliation. Every repost widened the rift inside the Harris family, turning a music shoot into yet another viral flashpoint. And just when it seemed the chaos might cool down, a new twist was already forming behind the scenes. Because even as King brushed off the lecture, another bombshell was waiting to erupt. A revelation that would shift the spotlight from music videos and guns to something far more personal: a baby on the way. And that revelation would send the family drama spinning in a whole new direction. While social media was still replaying the gun video showdown, King quietly prepared a different kind of announcement. One no diss track or arrest record could overshadow. Late one night, he went live on Instagram, camera angled just right, voice low but buzzing with excitement. With a grin that startled even his most loyal fans, he dropped 4 words that changed everything. "I'm about to be a dad." But those words weren't just a confession, they were a spark for a whole new storm. The comments exploded in real time. Hearts, shocked face emojis, and questions flooded the chat. Who was the mother? How far along? Was this a publicity stunt? Within minutes, screenshots of the reveal ricocheted across Twitter and celebrity blogs, setting off a digital earthquake. And then came the revelation that turned curiosity into outright frenzy. King named the mother Big Nana, an older woman known to some in Atlanta's underground scene but barely on the public's radar. Rumors raced ahead of the facts. Some claimed she was years older than King, others whispered she had big bag intentions. Fans dissected every photo of her online, trying to calculate the timeline and motives. But the speculation only got wilder when T.I. entered the conversation. Appearing on a popular podcast, T.I. confirmed the news himself, dropping his own bombshell with a wry grin. "I got 2 granddaughters and a grandson on the way," he said before adding the line that instantly went viral. "I'm gonna raise this child to torture you the way you tortured me. I promise you there will be an indictment in this young one." And that quote sent shockwaves through the Harris household. Tiny, already seething over months of chaos, couldn't believe what she was hearing. To her, T.I.'s joking tone felt less like grandfatherly pride and more like encouragement for King's reckless path. Friends say she replayed the clip over and over, each listen deepening the sense that T.I. was normalizing the very behavior tearing their family apart. But while Tiny fumed, King was celebrating. When their baby boy arrived in early November 2024, King documented every moment, from the delivery room excitement to the sleepless nights. He posted a track called "Dear Son," captioned with the newborn's exact birth time. November 5th, 8:09 a.m. Welcome King Jr., time to take over. His feed flooded with photos of tiny hands and proud dad smiles, the tone dramatically softer than the gun-waving clips that had made him infamous. And for a fleeting moment, it looked like fatherhood might be his turning point. Fans noticed the shift immediately. Comments praised him for stepping up and breaking the cycle, while others warned that the timing of his pending charges could still overshadow the joy. Tiny clung to the hopeful side, privately telling friends she finally saw King trying to become the kind of father T.I. never was in those early years. But hope alone couldn't erase the legal storm still circling their name. Because even as baby photos warmed his timeline, King's arrest footage was still trending, and prosecutors weren't forgetting the outstanding warrant and weapon charge. The glow of fatherhood couldn't cancel the cold reality of court dates and possible sentencing. And that collision of new life and looming consequences would feed directly into the next, even darker chapter of this family saga. As the glow of fatherhood settled in, a harsher truth began to surface, one that fans and family alike could no longer ignore. From his earliest viral tantrums to the night of flashing sirens and body cams, King's life seemed to mirror the very chaos that once defined T.Y.'s rise to fame. But these weren't just coincidences, they were echoes. Music insiders whispered that King wasn't simply stumbling into trouble, he was chasing a legend. Every headline about his arrest, every viral clip of defiance, read like a remix of T.I.'s own early rap-era controversies. To those who knew both father and son, it looked less like rebellion and more like homage. And each new incident fed that theory. Even King's body language invited comparisons. The way he squared his shoulders in confrontations, the sly grin when cameras flashed, the calm when blue lights spun. Longtime fans could scroll back through old T.I. mugshots and see the resemblance in posture and in attitude. But the similarities didn't stop with mannerisms. There was the music itself, gritty lyrics that glorified struggle, survival, and life on the edge. For a kid who grew up with luxury cars in the driveway, it was a calculated choice. Friends of the family quietly admitted they suspected King felt he had to earn street credibility to stand next to his father's legacy. And that hunger for credibility was starting to look dangerous. Even King's closest friends admitted off-camera that he seemed fueled by a need to impress T.I. more than to impress the industry. One producer described late-night sessions where King would brag about making Pops proud, as if every brush with the law added to his rap resume. But admiration that deep can twist into something darker. Observers online speculated that King wasn't just repeating history, he was intentionally living it. Some even suggested he might have welcomed that infamous arrest as a rite of passage, a way to finally stand shoulder to shoulder with the father he idolized. And those whispers only grew louder after T.Y.'s own public comments. When T.I. joked about raising the greatest gangster of all time in his future grandson, critics pounced. To them, it wasn't comedy, it was confirmation that father and son were locked in a dangerous cycle of proving toughness through chaos. But for Tiny, this wasn't entertainment, it was heartbreak. She saw a son who wasn't finding his own path, but walking straight into a trap his father once barely escaped. To her, King wasn't just mirroring T.I.'s past, he was fast-forwarding through every cautionary tale she'd begged him to avoid. And that realization set the stage for the final, irreversible move in this family's saga. By the time winter settled over Atlanta, the Harris Mansion no longer felt like the heart of a hip-hop dynasty. It felt like the war room of a family unraveling in real time. What began as small hairline fractures had widened into deep, unfixable fault lines. Tiny arrived at the courthouse in a black coat and dark glasses, face unreadable, papers in hand. The same woman who once defended her husband through tours, trials, and tabloids now walked past flashing cameras without a glance. But the shock inside those documents was louder than any paparazzi shout. The filing didn't just ask for a clean break, it read like a closing argument. It detailed years of T.I.'s alleged infidelity, his on-again, off-again presence as a father, and the viral humiliation of their public fights. It named King's downward spiral as a tipping point, proof that the pattern of chaos had finally gone too far. And that legal thunderclap ricocheted through the entertainment world in seconds. When word broke, gossip sites lit up like fireworks. Push notifications screamed, Tiny Harris files to end 20-year marriage, cites public humiliation and family turmoil. Hip-hop blogs dissected every paragraph, while talk shows debated whether this was empowerment or tragedy. But in the Harris household, silence spoke louder than headlines. Sources close to the family say T.I. read the filing in private, his face unreadable, his phone off. No last-minute appeals, no late-night flowers. He told confidants only that he had seen this coming, echoing the same fatalistic calm he showed during King's arrest. And that unshaken response only deepened the sense that the marriage was truly over. Tiny, meanwhile, was resolute. Friends described her as done covering for him, relieved more than heartbroken. To her, this wasn't simply about King's arrest or a single argument. It was about years of unhealed wounds finally demanding daylight. And that clarity turned the final signature into a declaration of independence. Fans who once watched T.Y. and Tiny's reality show for its picture-perfect family moments now replayed old clips with new eyes. Jokes and smiles that once seemed charming now looked like signals of long-buried tension. Comment sections filled with bittersweet nostalgia and shocked disbelief. But nostalgia wasn't going to stop what came next, because the legal process was swift. Within weeks, lawyers confirmed the separation of assets, child support agreements for younger children, and a full public acknowledgement that one of hip-hop's most enduring couples had officially fractured. And that official stamp closed a chapter that millions thought would last forever. The impact went far beyond paperwork. Industry insiders wondered how joint ventures, music catalogs, business deals, television residuals would be split. Concert promoters speculated whether T.I.'s touring plans or Tiny's brand partnerships would survive the scrutiny. And those business aftershocks guaranteed the story would keep dominating headlines. For King, the divorce wasn't an abstract legal matter. It was a mirror of his own struggles. The son who once fought for his father's approval now watched the family name shift from powerhouse to cautionary tale. And that realization cast a long, uncertain shadow over the next stage of his life. By the time the ink dried on the final decree, the Harris empire was forever changed. What had started with a midnight traffic stop ended with the collapse of a celebrity marriage and a public reckoning of fame, family, and the price of legacy. And as the cameras turned to the future, one truth became impossible to ignore. Nothing about the Harris story will ever be the same again. And just like that, the Harris empire isn't a family headline anymore. It's a cautionary tale. One midnight traffic stop set off a chain reaction. A viral arrest, public father-son brawls, a gun video meltdown, a surprise baby announcement, and finally divorce papers that shattered 2 decades of history. But even as the ink dries on those legal documents, the story refuses to end. What happens next? Will King's new life as a father finally break the cycle, or will he repeat it with a vengeance? Can T.I. rebuild his brand when the internet keeps replaying every misstep? And will Tiny's bold new independence rewrite her legacy as more than half of a power couple? The questions are as explosive as the answers waiting around the corner. So tell me, whose side are you on? Was T.I.'s tough love the only way to save his son? Or did he abandon his family when they needed him most? Do you think King's baby boy will change everything? Or is the next generation destined to repeat the same chaos? Drop your hottest takes in the comments and let's light up this debate. If tonight's breakdown shocked you even half as much as it shocked Hollywood, smash that like button until it glows, share this video with every friend who follows celebrity drama, and subscribe so you never miss the next scandal that rocks the industry. Because if the Harris family saga has proven anything, it's that one headline can change everything overnight, and the next twist is already on its way. Stay tuned, stay ready, and remember, in the world of fame and family, nothing is ever as untouchable as it seems.